Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. This will be my next Legacy of Yangchen chapter analysis video. This one will be for chapter 16, which is called Matters of Pride. This starts a group of a couple of chapters here where we focus on a very kind of specific kind of group of scenes here, which is effectively Yangchen and Kavik gambling with the other Zongdus, mainly the Zongdu of Taku, who we get to meet in this chapter, as some sort of a plan is going off. Now, these chapters are constructed in a little bit of a weird way where we jump in right in the middle of it happening and we don't really know how this came about, and then we explain it like in the following chapter, catch up to this scene, this chapter, and then go past it as well. So one of those kind of it happens a few times in this book where we get those moments of like you get something and then you cut back to, and this is why this happened in the first place. So it's pretty interesting. There's some stuff later on in the book that makes it kind of feel a little bit like maybe these scenes aren't purposefully, in a way, are not as important as they kind of feel in the moment, but there's still some elements here that are very, very interesting, especially as we get into the whole idea of how do you actually, you know, kind of put pressure on the leader of like basically the most wealthy of all of the Shang cities of Taku in a basically betting game like this. And that is, you are going to have to bet with a lot of money, and that's kind of what they deal with here to keep the stakes kind of high. So let's jump into the chapter here. It's pretty short, but yeah, we were just right in the middle of this game here. Yangchen kind of reminiscing about like, oh, like spycraft could be like this, but at this table, you know, money is still the most powerful weapon available. As we jump straight into Zongdu Iwashi, who is the Zongdu of Taku, just winning this game of Sparrow Bones here and taking all the money. And so it's this crazy kind of situation where it's Yangchen and Kavik here at the table. Kavik is the one actually playing, but under the disguised identity of Master Liu, L-I-O. So he's basically meant to be kind of like an air nomad in this situation, kind of supporting Yangchen, as we'll sort of get the little bit of a backstory for in the kind of coming chapters. But he's playing the Zongdu here. You know, Chaisi is also at the table. But here we see that even though Kavik went into this confident, as we'll see later on, he is losing to the Zongdu badly, and this is very much presenting one aspect of the of Iwashi's character. So we see Yangchen is freaking out at this point because Kavik just lost a lot of money. Kavik thought it was like the right move to make, but it obviously hasn't worked at all. He's sweating because he's not used to wearing air nomad kind of robes, basically, what's going on here. And yeah, we just get the description, the initial description of Iwashi. It says here he's about 50 years old, short, broad, and bald. And even though he's a Zongdu, he already kind of came into the role as someone who was very, very wealthy. So he views the job as it says here, as a lark, and he was content to walk alongside the lumbering behemoth that was Taku's wealth. So he is a kind of hands-off leader because in a way Taku doesn't need as much help as some of the other places. But it also means he is a very money-focused kind of character where because he's in such a stable position with his money, he can use this to take advantage of like other people, basically. That's the kind of whole idea of him. So he's kind of pointing out that like he feels that Kavik as Master Liu is kind of playing things very safely. Maybe he needs to kind of take a few more risks. This is where Yangchen looks down at the kind of waters, because of course they're playing up in the kind of house, so they look down at the waters, and she looks down at Iwashi's ship docked out there, the Bliss Eternal. And this is obviously a huge part of the mission that is going on here. We'll learn basically in like the following page effectively that Yangchen and Kavik are here doing this part of the mission to effectively distract Iwashi, while the rest of the team, so Akudon, Taigum, and Jujinta, are down there basically trying to get aboard the Bliss Eternal to get some key information from Iwashi. That's kind of what's actually happening here as a little bit of context. But yeah, they notice that she's looking down at the docks, and it's just like, is there something that interests you down there? And she's like, yes, I need to know when Master Liu's luck will come sailing in, because right now I think it's dropped anchor somewhere over the horizon. So, bit of a joke here, but she's sweating because the money that they're betting here is effectively the kind of cash reserves of Bin and we know from the earlier chapters of the book that those cash reserves are not very high at all. Like, this is the money that they kind of managed to kind of scrounge up by selling a lot of the important kind of items and stuff like that. They don't even have enough money to build a couple of extra wells that they need to support the increased population. But to have this game with the Zongdu, they have to bet this amount of money, like basically a percentage of a town's kind of funding effectively here. So Chicey is kind of like, don't be too harsh on your companion. He might be bleeding money, but at the end of the day, it is only money. It's not a matter of life and death. But this is where Iwashi kind of stands up and is kind of like, no, I disagree with that. Look at the phrasing that you just used. You said he was bleeding blood. And this is kind of a big part of his character. Sanctimonious fools always claim that you can't put a price on human life, but you absolutely can. How much food does a person eat over 8 decades? How much does medicine for a fatal disease cost? A magistrate declares compensation when a farmer's hippo ox tramples the neighbor's child. Money is life, money is death. And so, because he's beating Kavik at this game, he kind of leans across and sort of kind of whispers into his ear, but everyone can still hear it. I'm killing you, Master Liu. Not with a knife in the dark, but in broad daylight. That is what your debt means. If you were to run away right now, duty, honor, and law would deliver you right back into my hands. I don't think your entire life's labors could encompass the sum you currently owe me. I'm killing you and anyone you might have hoped to support. And Chai-Si is the only one to kind of make him kind of step down here. But the question is, will you continue to play the game here? How can you recover from such devastating losses? And right as we get to the end of the chapter here, this is where kind of the reveals begin to come out that, yes, they've been basically using the fortunes of Bin here. They've been disemboweled in this game, of course. What can possibly happen here? And it mentions here, but they still hadn't received the signal from the others. They should have been finished an hour ago. Had they been caught? Were they already dead? That's the kind of whole idea. But Kavik feels he has to keep going because they haven't got the signal yet. So he's like, no, we can keep going. And Yangchen remembers what was said earlier on in the book. Hesitation gets people killed. They have to kind of commit in this moment. But Yangchen is very much kind of believing effectively what Zongdu Iwashi is saying, that they are betting with money, yes, but effectively with how that money is meant to be used. They are betting with shelter, warmth, food. All of this is kind of going away as they lose. They are effectively gambling with people's lives here. And she just notes that the plan was a mistake. What was I thinking? What in the name of spirits was I thinking? So, things seem really bad now, but we'll get sort of why they were relatively confident going into this. And of course, as you probably would expect, we do get the turnaround as we kind of go forward in these chapters. But, just an interesting one, an introduction to Zongdu Iwashi, who I think they do a good job at making into a relatively unique character with, this makes sense as the character of the wealthiest of the Shang cities and his excessive focus on money above all else, even though he himself doesn't need that much money. Like, his focus on, he's clearly an expert kind of gambler himself, and just the way he always effectively is equating a certain amount of money to what that money actually means when used in reality, and especially because we're betting with basically budgets of cities. This is a crazy game that's actually taking place here, and it's almost to the point where you forget that Chai-Si is in this scene here, because the focus is more on Iwashi overall, but it's still a case where like we kind of have to stay a little bit undercover here with Chicey, because we know she is ultimately behind a lot of the main plot that's actually going on here. So her just subtly being there in the middle, acting calm and composed, is interesting by itself, and we'll get some more interesting stuff with her as the chapters go on here. But yeah, in general, just an interesting kind of turn here, as we kind of course, have to explore what exactly we are doing here. So we're trying to figure out, okay, where would Chicey have placed the combustion bender, Thapa? Where is he? How can we possibly figure that out? And so, you know, it's basically more research into everything about Chicey, everything about unanimity, and this is kind of part of it, in that, you know, Chicey using other Shang cities, Iwashi probably has a lot of documentation. That would sort of make sense, that she would kind of trust someone who is so wealthy, maybe a little bit above other people. So that's kind of the point kind of being made here overall. But it is a funny visual, just like Kavik dressed effectively as an air nomad, just like absolutely sweating buckets here, playing this game, when otherwise, as far as we're aware, he's very good at these games, and is actually a good gambler, but it's not going well. So interesting stuff. So yeah, there's my thoughts on this chapter. In the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.